Hi everyone, I just want to let you know that the editing for these reviews will be going down in quality, and this is because the Snyder Cut is coming out pretty soon, and it's already leaked on HBO Max. So expect the quality to not be as good as the Wonder Woman review, and more like the second half of the Man of Steel review. From this point onwards, I'm going to be using random gameplay footage. I could be using Batman Arkham footage, but the issue is I don't want you to see and notice that I'm really bad at doing puzzles. So yeah, expect a lot of random games. Now that's out of the way, here's the next Road to the Snyder Cut. Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition. But before I can review the Ultimate Edition, I just wanted to use this time to explain my reaction to the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman. Originally, I wanted to watch it the day of release, but I had to fly to Dubai. However, I do have a friend from Dubai who's willing to rewatch it with me. So during the time frame between the movie release and me watching it in theaters, Rotten Tomatoes started its trend. And one of the things I do not like is looking at reviews for a movie that I know I will definitely watch, because it can easily raise and lower my expectations for that movie. But it doesn't matter, because now my Twitter timeline was filled with poor Batman v Superman ratings. So I went into this movie with super low expectations. I noticed all the things that people hated about that movie, and I still managed to come out of the movie just liking it. I even said it was a 7.2 out of 10. I even somewhat tried to justify some of the negative points from that movie, but over time my actual feelings started to kick in, and my score for the movie lowered even more. My cousin suggested that I should watch the Ultimate Cut, and he even says it's an 8 out of 10 and it's underrated. And that was one of the things that prompted me to do this whole DCEU rewatch. Also, slight disclaimer, I watched this movie without the perspective of a comic book fan, and I just wanted to watch the movie as a regular moviegoer. Now let's see how I actually feel. Let me start off with the positive stuff out of the way. The action was so much better than Man of Steel. Like, it's incredibly easy to comprehend what's going on. Like, the fight scenes are just super memorable. Obviously, that Batman warehouse scene was like the best live action fight sequence ever, and possibly the best scene out of that whole movie. And I felt like everyone did a good job with their script and direction. Even Jesse Eisenberg, who I'll talk later on. One of the good things about the Ultimate Cut is that it fills in a lot of the holes that honestly should have been in the theatrical cut to begin with. Except for this one scene. If you remember, Batman beats up and brands a guy because he was involved with a sex trafficking ring. Then we see the person get killed in prison. And after that, we see the person's ex-girlfriend and baby talking to Clark Kent. And she's saying that Batman has gone too far. And it's meant to motivate Superman into stopping Batman, right? And also it's like we're meant to feel bad about this guy because his ex-girlfriend doesn't have anyone to support their baby, even though this guy was making his profit off his sex trafficking. Okay, if you wanted us to feel bad for this person, then how about making the guy really young, like early to mid-20s? He's not involved in sex trafficking, but more involved in making, selling drugs. You know, give him a Jesse Pinkman kind of vibe. This way it feels as if, yeah, Batman has gone too far, even though he was a criminal, and it feels slightly valid to feel bad for that person as well. Okay, I think we're in the rant portion of the video. To be honest, this movie has a lot of issues. One being the characters. For instance, Alfred will say,
"He is not our enemy,"
to Bruce Wayne, but still proceeds to help him with the kryptonite weapons. Why is he still helping Batman? Does he feel like he's in some sort of debt to him? A little bit of clarification would be useful. And also, Superman is hardly in this movie, and I don't know how I should feel about his character. The first thing he does when confronting Batman is saying, "Bruce, I need you to understand," then proceeds to shove him 10 feet away. He literally couldn't say, "Bruce, Lex Luthor is using you. He kidnapped my mom." And speaking of Lex Luthor, his constant allegories and metaphors become so obnoxious so quick. He honestly should have been the Joker, the Riddler, or any other mentally crazed villain if he's gonna talk like this. And sometimes his allegories are inconsistent. He calls Superman the devil early in the film, then he calls him a god, and then he creates his own devil. My defense that I can give is that he lied to the senator about his actual thoughts. But then again, why did he turn his painting upside down? Was that to suggest that Steppenwolf is coming into their world? I said earlier that Jesse Eisenberg did a good job with the script and that he was given. I still can't disagree with that statement because in the end of the day, he's following the director's vision. But I think when we heard that he was Lex Luthor, we had two different expectations. A bold version of his Mark Zuckerberg portrayal that would have aged well in my opinion, or he dies of kryptonite poisoning and then Bryan Cranston comes in to reveal himself as Lex Luthor Sr. and he wants to avenge his son. The next character that I had a problem with is Batman. I know you must have seen and heard the comments about the Martha scene, and High Top Films does a great job explaining what's wrong with that, even counteracting the it helps Bruce see that Superman is more human than he thinks he is. But the issue is that he's kinda not smart. One of the things you do before you get into a fight is know your opponent's weaknesses. Boxers do it, YouTubers do it, etc. Not just physical, but mental weaknesses as well. So you would think that Batman would put the energy into researching about how Superman was able to live on Earth for so many years. Even Lois Lane was able to figure out his identity, and she didn't have any of the crazy equipment that Batman had. And you're telling me that Batman never realized that Superman had a family until that very point? While we're at it, we don't need the Martha and Thomas death scene in general. Instead, we should have gone what was the death of Robin. Which, fun fact, Zack Snyder wanted a prequel comic about the death of Robin, but WB turned it down. And that's a stupid decision because it would have allowed us to be more inclined with the idea that this Batman is really ruthless. Also, as soon as his Batwing crashes, he does nothing in that Doomsday fight. Why doesn't he try to find a kryptonite spear instead of letting Lois Lane drown for it? And maybe if someone can tell Wonder Woman about the spear, and if only Wonder Woman can fly. And speaking of Wonder Woman, remember when she said 100 years ago I walked away from mankind? Obviously we now know why this statement is BS, and this is a perfect example of why movie directors that work within the same cinematic universe should communicate more with each other. And you can 100% see that with the MCU. Remember that scene when Superman was like,
"She with you?"
I thought she was with you.
That's a perfect example of a line in a movie trailer, but kinda dumb in the final product. There wasn't any hint in this movie that Diana was similar to Superman, and even if there was, you would think that there was a 1% chance of her being evil, right, Bruce? Or was Bruce planning on killing her and the other people in Lex Luthor's file if Clark never brought up Martha? And speaking of Lex Luthor's file, did anyone think it was weird when Cyborg's dad covered the camera during this experiment? When scientists film their experiments, they show the full thing all the time. I know it's meant to be dramatic, but there are ways to create tension, like having the camera get damaged and, shuts off because of that damage. Okay, this is the biggest critique of them all. A DCEU fan would have to reach so hard to counteract this point. This movie is called Batman v Superman. The whole movie is just them talking behind each other's backs for 2 hours. Then they fight at the 2-hour mark, and the fight lasts for 10 minutes.
What? What?
I know because I timed it. To put it extremely lightly, we were cucked. Now, final point. This movie didn't need to be rated R at all. I'm not saying that because I don't like how dark it is. In fact, I was fine with the tone of the story. I just think it doesn't warrant the R rating. When I think of a rated R movie, it would have to have loads of blood, nudity, and loads of swearing. But this movie doesn't really have any explicit scenes and just a couple of swear words. Which in that case, a few of the X-Men movies should be rated R if we're following Snyder's rating logic.
Excuse me, I'm Eric Lensher.
Charles Xavier.
Go fuck yourself.
So overall, I'm gonna give this movie a 2 out of 5. It definitely could have been a lot better, but was just poorly executed. And that's it for today's video. I can't promise the video editing will get any better, to be honest, especially with the last movie. So I'm sorry if the next 2 videos will be lowered in quality. Let's be real, they kinda deserve it. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, press the like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to get notified for the Suicide Squad review. And see you next time.